Hello, everybody. This is Off Leash with Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Congress is up to no good at the hands of the Republican leadership, who's basically united with Democrats to pass their agenda, the pro-Ukraine agenda that has really taken over the congressional focus and agenda for months now. Erik, let me run through a few details of what's going on in Congress under the leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson. They've got this package, this funding package that's been stalled for a while. Obviously, the pro-Ukraine coalition, which is the entire establishment, Democrats and Republicans, been pushing this for a long time. They tie the Ukraine money, they tie money for Israel to Ukraine, so that they have to get, continue to fill the coffers of the Ukrainians. And in order to get it to the floor, it went through the Rules Committee. First time in history, a Republican speaker needed the Democrats in the Rules Committee to get it to the floor. And now 159 Democrats enabled it to go for votes for funding. We expect those votes to take place any time now. That will include, by the way, $100 billion, $26 billion for Israel, $61 billion for Ukraine, and $8 billion for Taiwan. Of the money for Israel, of the $26 billion, $9.5 billion is going for humanitarian aid in Gaza and Ukraine. There's humanitarian aid going to Ukraine as well. So this is an abomination. Mike Johnson now has 3 members of the Republican delegation who are ready to push the motion to vacate, just like Kevin McCarthy faced last year. This is in Israel's time of need. These establishment elitists have tied the money to Ukraine. We'll get to Fisa in a moment because I want to get all your thoughts on that. But first, let's talk about this funding bill that's sailing through Congress because Democrats are running. Mike Johnson answers to Hakeem Jeffries at this point. Erik.
Look, we might as well have Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House because there doesn't seem to be a damn bit of difference between Republicans and Democrats, because with Republicans, we just get more and more and more spending nonsense that we cannot afford. $62 billion is what we were spending a year in Afghanistan while we were still there, going through half motions and losing to the Taliban. The Ukrainians are losing terribly to the Russians. There is a 0% chance of them regaining their territory. They need to end that war and stop killing off the next generations of Ukrainians. Israel can fend for itself. We don't have to fund Israel. There's an enormous wealthy diaspora that if Israel was truly in dire need, on the verge of failure, they can step up and fund it. So the American taxpayer is the one who is in mortal danger because we are being looted by these clown politicians that are sent to Washington. It's disgusting. And I would say vote no on all of it and starve the beast that is Washington from looting the American citizen any further.
Well, and for sure, Europe carries 90% of the risk on the Ukraine war, but only 10% of the cost. They've only covered 10% of the cost. In fact, Donald Trump just tweeted this the other day. I was glad to see it. I've been saying it for months. It's time for Europe to step up on Ukraine. But naturally, Chuck Schumer and these leftists have tied the Ukrainian, and by the way, some Republicans too, have tied the Ukrainian money, the money for Israel, they've tied it to Ukraine. But by God, they were going to get their way. What's outrageous at this point is what fight has Mike Johnson put up? Why on earth hasn't he said, shut down the government if we can't shut down the border, our own border? There's been no fight. He's just playing this typical game. And I think, frankly, I will predict, I think that we will have a motion to vacate the chair and we'll have another, several weeks of chaos for them to pick a new leader.
Fine. Because just spending more money because Congress can print money out of thin air, I would actually prefer take chaos. But again, there has to be fiscal responsibility, and there is none of it residing in Washington anymore. It's disgusting. Elections have consequences. I think it's incumbent on every American voter to know who they send to Congress and what their positions are on these things, and to elect people that are fiscally responsible, because that is clearly missing even in the Republican Party, obviously missing in the Democrat Party, but we just spend so much as a country that we don't even have anymore, and we are eluding our own future generations from the kind of prosperity that we enjoy today.
Well, and this, frankly, they've got this unfettered spending partly because Kevin McCarthy allowed the debt ceiling deal in 2023, where they kicked the can down the road well into 2025. And so they have no restriction. There is no limit at this point. They have no ceiling whatsoever in their spending. Probably.
So yes, so really,
Yeah.
in that case, let's just approve a dividend of $1 million for every American citizen and print, because if printing money brings prosperity, then let's just print unlimited amounts of it. It's absolutely madness. The problem is, obviously, that is madness, and I'm not actually recommending that. But Washington gets, the problem is the political elites, the lobbyist class gets to pick those winners of who gets that windfall. And that's the disgusting thing that must stop.
And the pro-war coalition, right?
Cre-
The pro-war coalition.
Creating wealth is down to people creating a good or a service that people want and work hard for it and exchange it. The largesse that is fire hosed from Washington and the connected class is the disgusting thing that must end.
Erik, we've talked here many, many times about the unplugged phone and its significance in protecting and securing our data, and really from spying even from the U.S. government. Fisa is now about to expire. In this, we're going to have a marathon session of Congress fighting over it, and really one of the most devastating things to our individual liberties came out of the Patriot Act, ironically, with Fisa, and now it's up for renewal. And I can almost guarantee they'll find the votes to pass this thing against the best interests of regular Americans. Give us your thoughts on it.
Well, two things. First, Unplugged as an effort, as a company, reached a significant milestone this week, in that we have produced our first 10,000 phones, and they will be shipped to America in the next 10 days. So
Excellent.
We'll be doing immediate deliveries. And the timing could not be better, and these clowns in Washington are making the case for us. I mean, FISA, which you mentioned, the acronym, is actually, its definition is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. But what it's really becoming is DISA, Domestic Intelligence Surveillance Act. So let me just read something to you. Last Friday, the 12th of April, the United States House of Representatives, including some Republicans, many Republicans and most all Democrats, passed the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, a reauthorization bill that greatly increases the scope of information the government can collect under Section 702 of FISA, and allows the National Security Agency substantially expanded ability to utilize businesses and equipment within those businesses by expanding the definition of electronic communications surveillance service provider in Section 504 of the pending bill. This may seem innocuous, but it gives the NSA and federal government the ability to pull all types of businesses into this definition. It massively expands the potential for warrantless surveillance. Companies tasked with doing the government's bidding not only do not have the option to refuse these queries, but they're also gagged from and prevented from informing clients that their information has been accessed by the government. Senators from both right and left have sounded the alarm. From Senator Rand Paul, quote, "The government's warrantless spying on American citizens is dreadful, wrong, and unconstitutional. The only way to fix FISA is to prevent the secretive Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court from ordering the surveillance of Americans and prohibit the feds from monitoring our emails, phone calls, and texts. I will insist the Senate debate and vote on my amendment to restore our Fourth Amendment rights." Now, it's what that was saying is the federal government can basically, without a warrant, force businesses through which your emails, your phone records, your bank records, whatever, to give it up. And we know the FISA court is really it's a paper tiger in terms of defending American rights. I think last year they did hearings and they found that the FBI illegally collected data 274,000 times incorrectly under the so-called FISA court rules. So why would we give the federal government, particularly the FBI, highly politicized, the ability to do more after they've already proven to do it wrong 270 some thousand times?
So
I am
this new
befuddled.
legislation then is designed to codify the illicit activities of the FBI.
And to expand them. And it gags vendors from even providing it. So why does it matter? I mean, why do we build Unplugged? Because one of the ways is to collect metadata on where you've gone, who you've interacted with, that advertising ID that sits on a regular phone, on a Google or Apple phone. And so from that, the federal government can collect where you've gone, who you've interacted with, without any warrant. And Unplugged does not have an advertising ID. And our operating system, at our very core level, sitting on our hardware, blocks any of the apps sitting on your phone from collecting the who, what, where, how, and why of what you're doing. Second, if you're sending WhatsApp messages or iMessage messages, all of that can be collected now. According to this extension of this growth of the FISA authorities, can be collected, and those big tech providers can provide that to the federal government without telling you, and largely without any warrants. Now, Unplugged Messenger, we don't have. If someone asked us for the data of what you were saying, we wouldn't have anything to provide because that is all done peer to peer and it's encrypted, and Unplugged does not have any of the keys of that data. So even if someone were to seize the servers, all of that data would be encrypted, highly encrypted. It would take them many years throwing all the Cray type computers at it, trying to break that encryption. So we built Unplugged to be a bulwark of defense of private information, free speech, and free communications for free people, because we just see a runaway federal government. And this the fact that Republicans voted for this is wrong. I don't know what they have on these people, but at what point
Right.
did they check their desire for limited government and issue a blank check? Unfortunately, we've issued a blank check to the federal government to spend money, and now Republicans and Democrats seem to be issuing a blank check to trounce on our First and Fourth Amendment rights. First Amendment for free speech, Fourth Amendment to be free of unlawful searches of our person and property.
Yeah, this is a great government workaround where there have been many times in the past where a big tech company was able to block the government from getting data because it was warrantless. Now this is going to be the great workaround because the FBI doesn't want to be hindered or embarrassed anymore when they're dragged before Congress to explain all of these warrantless searches. But this is a free pass for them to be able to spy on Americans when, as you said, the original intent of FISA was for foreign enemies. But this administration has defined the greatest threat to America to be domestic enemies.
MAGA Republicans. Anyway,
Exactly. Right?
the current administration, the current administration defines enemies as anyone that disagrees with it. And so if you think about what this growth of authorization of FISA is, it's codifying all this other big data collection that big tech was doing as a way to maximize their commercial business, to sell your personal preferences and interactions to advertisers to push products to you. And so the federal government has been accessing that stuff writ large, and now they're codifying it so that they can do it and they can take it without even telling you they're taking it. And it's really why, geez, and I hate for this to sound like a commercial, folks, but it is exactly why we did Unplugged. We've been slogging away for 3.5 years, and we finally have a solution to it. And we incorporated the company outside the United States because of this kind of nonsense. Because I kind of feel like the federal government is becoming a threat to its own citizens' First and Fourth Amendment rights.
But Unplugged is a purposeful solution, which is exactly why you founded it, because you saw the need and the threat to our individual liberties, which are now growing. Fisa has been abused for years. Now they're looking to codify a way for them to do so. Doesn't matter that they don't have warrants. They can search and surveil without limit. Last word to you on this, Erik.
And really what this is it allows them to just have more and more fishing expeditions. If you post something that they don't like, and now they can start to collect any and all big data to try to make a case against you, and it's very reminiscent of what friends have told me from the Soviet Union, because they're a totalitarian government, made everything illegal. And so it made it easy for them to prosecute you if you did or said anything that the regime didn't like. And so by the warrantless searches, by basically developing and collecting all these pain points against you, it makes it very easy for a regime to silence anybody that it disagrees with. It is not what our founding fathers had in mind.
Yeah, this is chilling. It's chilling what we're facing right now, and it's a free pass for the federal government. And look, the average person doesn't trust them to begin with, especially in the wake of January 6th, where there's still hundreds of political prisoners in the DC gulag with their Fourth Amendment rights having been stripped of them long ago. But look, Unplugged.
And Mark, while you have murderers and rapists routinely paroled in New York, Washington, and all these big Dem-run cities, and you see that just the crazy, unlawful prosecutions of Trump, just throwing shit at the wall, trying to get something to stick to him. Trump is right when he says, "They're not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way." And look, he may be the imperfect vessel, but he's at least the tough enough vessel to take these arrows in the front, in the back, and from all sides to make a stand for a America that we know and love.
Look, if it wasn't for a tough guy from Queens who decided to leave his life of luxury, we wouldn't know as much as we do today about the corruption from the deep state and from the news media. He opened our eyes beyond our wildest imagination. As informed as I was back then, and as distrusting as I was of our major institutions, I learned more thanks to Donald Trump stepping up and having the courage to do so. And for our viewers, go to unplugged.com/offleash to learn more about the Unplugged phone. Now is the time, especially based on this latest threat to our individual liberties from Congress. Last word, Erik?
Yeah, and if people want to keep attuned to what is happening in Fisa, and this extension, we'll be posting more articles on the Unplugged website because this is important stuff, folks. You cannot have a free people without the ability to communicate freely.
Check it out. For now, that's it for us here at Off Leash with Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Until next time.